Now, as much as I'm starting to get to the point of not wanting to mention mass murderers' names, because I want to advocate for a world where this is not how to become famous anymore, where those seeking attention of everyone cannot get it by simply picking up a weapon of their choice and going to town on people. Um, but why? Why some of them do it isn't always just about infamy. Why some of them do it is not just about becoming famous. Why some of them do it has nothing more to, to do with anything other than usually three major factors: epigenetics, um, their current genetics, such as the MAOA gene, genes, I guess I should say, and environmental influences, everything from home life to certain environmental effects, things of that nature. There's a story that is talking about at least what they found or didn't find in Lanza's brain, and I think that it's important to worth sharing. Blah. No signs of brain damage in Lanza, medical examiner. Officials caution against expecting answers. Now, some of you dullards out there, and yes, I will use that term, will say, see, there was nothing psychotic about him. It must have been the video games. To which I again say, prove it. I have a mountain of evidence, a mountain of studies over decades that says that there's no such link. You have public opinion and moral outrage. At this point, I win. Don't hold your breath is basically the advice of the Connecticut Chief Medical Examiner to anyone expecting science to prove insights into the mind of Adam Lanza. Toxicology and genetic testing is ongoing, but the autopsy H. Wayne Carver II conducted found no, quote, gross deformity or tumors in the brain, reports the Connecticut Post. It's a fishing expedition, says Carver. I don't think we'll find answers. He adds that he didn't expect to find such a deformity, which would generally indicate a disability so severe custodial care would be needed. Carver also said that Lanza did not appear to suffer from Fragile X syndrome, which is classified as, quote, the most common known genetic cause of autism or autism spectrum disorder. One of the telltale signs of the gene mutation is a large forehead or face. We measured his head and it fell in the normal range, Carver said. It will take several weeks for the drug test to be complete. So, for those of you who are starting to then take a second look at autistics and think to yourself, this seems to make perfect sense. They've got, as stereotyping would put it, and as several comedians have made jokes about not wanting to date somebody who has an autistic or retarded child, that they've got the mind of a child and the strength of a gorilla. So how can you be surprised when the Adam Lanzas of autism come out and hurt people? How many autistic serial killers have there been in history? Let's be very, very blunt and honest here. Yeah, I thought so. Screw you. But that's the thing, is that it made people, thanks to sensationalism, thanks to unsubstantiated bullcrap, it made it seem as though we now needed to be suspicious of and demonize and treat differently autistic spectrum disorder patients because they must be an Adam Lanza waiting to happen. And so autism plus violent video games apparently equals a school shooting. No, I'm sorry. That's not how that works. Like with many things, morality, as in personal morality, not whether they went to church, not whether they were, you know, sexually promiscuous or not. I'm talking about actual inborn, ingrained morality. And individuality has more to do with this than whether this person happened to be autistic, or in this case, we're seemingly finding out that Lanza was not autistic. Kind of feel stupid now for your harsh words against and demonizing of um, autistic people, even though if Adam Lanza was indeed autistic, this would mean nothing in terms of the bigger picture of autism spectrum disorders. Being autistic was not going to make you more likely to kill without empathy. Narcissism, anti-personality disorders, however, and especially coupled with a compulsivity disorder, would do something of that nature. But even then, it's a spectrum, it's a degree. And there's degrees that we should be aware of, although not separate these people out from everybody and thus create a new type of discrimination, but rather get these people the help they need, and so that they don't become or grow up to become the Adam Lanzas of, of, of their respected disorders out there. You know, being born antisocial does not guarantee that you will skin people alive just to see what it looks like and what it feels like and make furniture out of their remains. You know, simply being narcissistic doesn't mean that you're just going to indiscriminately just start sniping or killing people just because. Um, you know, just as being an atheist doesn't make you not any less susceptible to human natures such as greed, lust, and many other things that can also or are more of a contributing factor to somebody or killing somebodies than simply being born of a certain type of proclivity. We've got to stop this generalization, because look at where it's gotten us. Look at how all the different ways that it's hurting us. One of those ways is in our sex laws, which is hurting a lot of people who need not be hurt, who are not a threat to children, themselves, or anybody else in this country. To, you know, how we look at certain disorders and how we want to treat these people based off of the actions of the minority, not the majority. We've got so many conflations that we have no actual substantiated evidence for. Because, see, as I've talked about in some of my other videos talking about the MAOA gene, there are people who have literally, gene for gene, the genes of people who've committed atrocities in American history. And yet some of them are researchers, some of them are charity workers, some of them are high-level execs. And while some of them might be a-holes, they're not hurting people physically, typically not even emotionally, and pose no more threat to anybody than anybody else who does not have those genes. It's not one thing. It's not typically one smoking gun. It's not the media or some forms of media. It's not the Twinkies, for those of you who remember the Twinkie defense. It's not lead or the lack thereof. It's a lot of these factors coming together to create a symphony of horrible that pushes out horrible people who then go on to do horrible things. But there you go. Seems he didn't actually have autism, which creates more questions than it answers, but I still think that it's interesting and well worth sharing.